Okay, hello, greetings, and welcome. All right, so I get a lot of questions on what's the best type of cross training for internal martial arts. What's the best type of diet for qigong? What's the best type of system to train if you haven't got access to a formal school? What can you do as a home training program? So we get a lot of these types of questions online, so I want to answer a few of them today. So the first thing would be, who has the brightest aura? So if I look at all the different experiences I've had, and this started with me as a teenager, being in a nightclub, watching the dark shadows moving people's bodies on the dance floor. So this has been a continuous stream of experiences for many decades. Seeing people's energy systems is just a part of my normality. So I've got a firm background in it. So the brightest out of all the different athletic areas is Olympic powerlifters, not bodybuilders. Bodybuilders tend to have a lot of gaps in their body, a lot of dark patches, and generally not that healthy. But powerlifters, because they have this pre-stretch in the powerlift, like they load their body, they load the fascia before they lift the weight, they glow. They generate a very powerful emanation. And powerlifters are always on the edge of having a natural type of fajin because of that pre-stretch power load. Their fascia is tuned to life force, because life force arises when you have peak performance of fascia, and it's such a fascia oriented, biotensthetically oriented training system with peak strength. So when I get a powerlifter through and I teach them vital breathe, it's off the chart. They feel so much. Rebounding force, they just put people's energy into their stretch and learn how to relax their muscle further, tune the life force, and they get it easily. It's so for cross training, that is the number one. They have incredibly bright energy fields versus a bodybuilder who has a patchy energy field. And sometimes they're bright, sometimes they're dull. It's actually a bit messy. So anything that's whole body connection, functional strength, bringing your power to a peak through whole body connection, this type of Olympic powerlifting themed training is the number one, top of the list. Now, for someone who's at home and wants to train internally and doesn't want to go into a powerlifting gym or something like that, the rebounder, a trampoline. What the trampoline does is it makes life force radiate through the fascia, because trampolining is all about fascia development. Your mass is moving from your feet, waving through your legs, up through your crown and back down your body to your feet again. So you're getting a wave of mass up, wave of mass down. So if you just stand up where you are and just jump into the air, and as you jump into the air, you'll feel a wave of your mass going up your body. It might reach your chest, might reach your nose, it might pass through above your head as you hit that zero point before you start coming back down again. So waving mass through your body with a sense of relaxation is the ultimate loosening exercise. If I was to take a person and someone say, Sifu, should I do the 5 loosening exercises or should I do rebounding? Which will make me looser faster? I'd pick the rebounder, because the rebounder is moving mass through your body up and down many more times per minute than the loosening exercises. Think about it. You're loosening, you raise your body up and then you soften down, and then you raise your body up and you soften down. And the rate of which you're doing that, you can't isolate areas in your body, but on a rebounder, the weight is getting shot through your body. It's once you've compressed down, you can let go of intention as you fly into the air. You compress, release, and while you're in there, you're totally letting go. Gravity is not acting upon your body to hold structure for a moment. When you're doing the 5 loosening, you're always resisting gravity all the time. So there has to be a certain amount of muscle tension there to maintain standing upright. This doesn't happen on the rebounder. It's complete release. So the second area I suggest is the rebounder due to that fact that you can train at home. You get these waves going through. And I got a question a few days ago is how to release my legs. If you're doing traditional Tai Chi, you're going to get big, knotty thighs. Your quads are going to get really stiff from all the sinking. And that's where you burn. You look at people doing the fifth loosening exercise. They really sink down, they burn their legs out. Well, that's not good for you. That's holding tension in your legs. The rebounder will send that straight through to loosen your legs, and it'll loosen your whole body. And if you're jumping on the rebounder, you can jump up and then let the energy out through your arms. You can let it out through wherever you want. You can guide it through techniques. I used to do the rebounder with the kettlebells and play it that way, but high risk on your back, so be careful if you play that one. But you can do it any way that that fits your function. The air element Qigong, where we drop down, pull the energy up, circulate, and then whether we're doing it in front of a tree or the air element Qigong exercise, we've got all that on the Vimeo channel. You do that in a small way on the trampoline while you're bouncing. So you breathe in the color of the sky, you activate the air element fascia web, everything's light and stretched upwards, high center of gravity, and you play that theme. Okay, so the next area is nutrition. The people who have the brightest auras as a nutritional group are vegans and raw food vegans. When you're around a vegan restaurant where there's a lot of people who live on raw food, they glow. There's a natural glow in their energy field. Now, the interesting thing is that these people have a relatively tight energy field, that their mental, astral, and physical body is kind of stuck to itself. And that's why vegans are so angry online about people who eat meat and who are not vegan. It builds a type of excess, unpleasant energy that how dare you not be vegan. So this is power that's coming out of them that they're not managing very well. They're not meditating. So vegan people who meditate, they balance that out. They're quite calm and accepting of other people's behaviors and lifestyles. Vegans who don't meditate and don't do any type of spiritual practice but are vegan have all this energy and they get angry online. And it's very, very evident that, wow, these guys just have too much energy. So yep, they're getting that vitality. Nope, they're not managing it very well. Just the way they're speaking, the way they're expressing themselves, the way they're projecting their belief structures into other people and expecting other people to adhere to their thinking. This is a type of bullying, a type of control of others. And they're not able to regulate their own energy because they're getting too much through just having a really awesome raw diet. Now, I've only met one person who's done this, and they had a raw meat diet. And this person, their cardio just went off the chart. They went from one lap of an Olympic pool underwater on one breath to 2 laps. They were at the Q1 Tower on the Gold Coast doing sprints with their friends up 100 floor staircases. And so this person's cardio went through the roof. And it was a person in their 50s that went on a raw meat diet. So raw seems to be the key, not vegan. If you're eating rubbish processed vegan food, well, that's not good for you. But when you're eating raw food, you put it under a microscope, it's full of life. That seems to be more the key than just pure vegan. But because I've only experienced one person who is following that and couldn't profile a whole range of people, I can't put that as number one. But it's up near the top of the list without doubt. Okay, so for nutrition, even though I lean towards keto, because it reduces inflammation and it spreads the mind and makes the mind naturally occupy a larger space, where the raw food diet gives you power and chi and contracts your mental space. It's a different type of management. But if you're torn between the two, just cycle between keto and raw food. And you've got to look at your body type and feel what's best for you. All right, so the next area, obviously environment to practice in is green. If you live in a city, go to the park. Stand under a tree, wherever it's green. Get away on weekends and train up in the mountains. And you'll find your greatest gains will be in the places that have the most power. And I've done videos on that topic, so have a look at them. And you can look at places of power where to optimize your training time. You'll simply get more benefit for less time. Times of the day for peaking out your energy is sunrise. When that morning sun comes over the horizon, just pull that in through your vital energy field, pull it in through your eyes, pull it into your pineal gland, and absorb that energy in. Okay, so other aspects, the people you keep company with. If there's resonance on intellectual ideas in relation to internal training, they'll get stimulated and you'll have a flow of continuity of thinking and understanding and growth because of the company you keep. If you're vital breathing with another person who's vital breathing, there's an amplification of your energy. If you're doing spiritual practices, it's opening up subconscious doorways to information and you get insight. It'll start clicking more. So these people who have good company tend to glow more, because when a person has one tuning fork here, another one there, same frequency, we hit this one's going to vibrate. So this makes people's aura glow. This makes their spirit come up to the surface. Now, the next area is successful people of synchronicity. Now, when you're looking at what an unsynchronized person is, it's someone who's doing a job they don't want to be doing. They have negative feelings about the job and they're thinking about the next holiday. So this is an unsynchronized person. Their thought, their feeling, and their behavior and action is not on the task at hand. A successful person is, let's say, a person who runs a business. They think about the business plan. They emotionally get excited about it, and then they act upon it. And they've balanced the four elements out. Their awareness is always refining the business plan. They're always looking at their passion and devotion towards it. They're always stabilizing their will for consistent effort. And then the earth pillar is, yes, I'm going to put all that into action with a sense of joyfulness, with a sense of intelligence and passion and will, and they move forward and they're successful. They think, feel, and act on the same process, on the same alignment. So the three dantians align. When someone does this, they naturally glow. So the aura just looks bright. Their spirit comes out onto their physical environment. So when you're looking at different forms of cross training, and there's many other areas, climbers, people who do a lot of climbing, they have a really strong brightness to them. Well, they're out in the mountains all the time. They're tuning fascia. Their whole body's connected to get up that cliff face. They're following those fundamental principles that make them vital. Archery, you look at that. When you're holding the bow, you have to relax and release your muscles as you draw the string. It's pure fascia connection. You have to extend your mind out, and you have to control your breathing. So the breath control is more slowing it down. So you end up in this astral space to go into equanimity to balance the bow to fire the arrow. You have a lot of these, especially Zen style of archery, it's a meditative technique. These are very excellent forms of cross training because the amount of mental space required, the amount of equanimity is required, the amount of breath control and transferring load onto the facial web. Even though it's primarily one-sided, it still gives you a lot of fundamental internal principles. So when you get the mental projection onto the target and you can feel the target, you have less need to look at the target anymore. You just lock your mind on and fire the arrow when you're not looking at the target. So your mind intuition guides your physiology to be in the right place, guides the bow and the arrow to align to the target through feeling rather than seeing. So these higher level archers were really feeling their target and letting their body move with the feeling to fire the arrow rather than being completely dependent on visual sighting. So this increases that intuitive field of development. So that's another nice area of training. Whatever sport or cross training you go into, always look at how much fascia is being developed. What are the three conditions? Large mental space. The feeling has to be open, willful, passionate, and occupy large space. And the body has to be tuning the fascia and activating whole body connection. You need to bring these things into being. Now, there's some people say, if you get a six-pack, it's gonna make the chi sticky around your center of gravity. That's complete nonsense. People with six-packs glow like Christmas trees. It's just people who don't know what they're talking about who say things like that. I've been teaching Qigong for a very, very long time, and what I've noticed is when people have high levels of cardiovascular fitness, when they're athletes, when they come in, they get this stuff really, really quickly. The fitter you are, the more your Qi is going to respond to your mind. The more overweight and obese you are and out of health you are, the more difficult it is for your Qi to listen to your mind. So your stuckness has to do with your lack of flexibility in a certain part. Athletes' most flexible area to get their six-pack is their core, because everything they do from the core. So it's actually quite the opposite. If you train athletically and do a lot of sit-ups and you're training and this is all open and flexible and you're running and you're jumping and you're doing calisthenics, this is the most flexible part of your body because that's where you move from. You're continually using your core in every activity. It's most probably your hamstrings, if you're not stretching properly, that'll be stiff and where energy will get stuck, or the back of your shoulders and neck where things will get stuck, where you have to do that little bit of extra stretching. But when people say nonsense like that, just ignore them. Someone who glows, they're doing something right. Someone who doesn't glow, they're not doing something right. And I've been around hundreds and hundreds of monks from different lineages of Buddhism, around lamas, and a powerlifter glows far more than any of those religious people. They tend to not follow the rules. What makes the energy vital? What makes the astral body strong? What makes the spirit bright? They're not synchronized in that way. They're emotionally invested in a doctrine, and they're trying to work things out within the structure of their mind. And that's not what makes Qigong powerful. That's not what makes spiritual people radiate energy. It's synchronicity of the three bodies, keeping big mental space, training the fascia to be active and reticulating it through the middle dantian and the astral body to radiate, and being in synchronicity, mentally, astral and physically. This is what makes a person's aura really, really bright. Okay, so this particular topic, I could stay for hours talking about it, but with this stuff, if you're training and it makes you feel good, you're on the right track. You know, that positive feeling inside of your body of, oh, wow, I enjoy going for a run, I enjoy doing this. Well, then that's a good thing for you. And keep the mental body open, keep the fascia being developed, and reticulate the personality of what you're doing to radiate into that big mental space and your training internally. One last area is rowing. Now, if you've ever been out on the water and you're sort of paddling, kayaking, mental body stretched out in the distance, you're focused on the breath and you're stretching. You stretch, stretch, stretch as you paddle. This type of kayaking activity really builds fascia, builds breath control. Your breath is relaxing and transforming through the stretch. Your mind is stretched out on the distance to where you're going. Three bodies are open. People who do this are very bright. Now, it has a lot to do that they're doing this on the ocean or on the water that has a very strong magnetic field, and their awareness becomes a part of that magnetic field. They're feeling the water underneath their boat, underneath their kayak. Their mind is expanding underneath that through the stabilizers and balance, and then the power of the ocean is flowing through them. So when you've been out doing that and you get back to the beach, you're glowing. You know, you're really, whoa, okay, that person's got something special happening. So that's also another really, really nice area. So just look at, does your biotensecurity become active? Does your mind occupy a big space? Do you have to control the breathing and relax your power through the biotensecurity of the body to build this astral type of qi? And the rate of transformation will regulate depth. So let's say something like a powerlifter, they put the load on the body of the weight, they pre-stretch and they throw the weight up. There's a timing and relaxation between your mind, their breath, their stretch, and they slingshot the weight. That's when the energy transforms and converts from jin to qi, right in that transformation. The more control you have over that moment is the type of qi that you store inside your body, and this type of skill that you develop. Now, when we're talking about cross-training, you have to take that and you put it into your Qigong exercise. You put it into your Tai Chi exercises. The only negative that I've found about powerlifters, when you touch them, they're so connected, you can feel everything. They don't train to disconnect their body like Tai Chi people do. So when a Tai Chi person says, oh, you're not allowed to do any weightlifting for a period of time to loosen your body, this is because weightlifting increases connectivity, where loosening decreases connectivity. And when you touch someone who's very loose, you can't feel their center. So it's much more difficult to bounce them. They can yield, empty, neutralize, and create a jelly body. Now, these people can't do Fa Jin, because if they're still at this yielding phase where they're making their body loose and empty, their body's not connected, and you can't issue with a disconnected body. So you need to do the rebounding force exercises to connect your body. You need the loosening and the push hands exercise in the loosening phase to loosen the body, so you remove vulnerability. So when we're talking about radiance and chi, you don't need to be loose. That's a misunderstanding. A lot of people will do all this time loosening and emptying out tension out of their body. Does that make them glow? No, it doesn't. Loosening your body does not give you more power or energy. It gives you more potential to conduct energy because the muscles aren't getting in the way. But just simply by doing a power stretch with tension, you radiate. So it's about not being able for your partner to bounce you that easily. So this is an important thing to recognize. You don't need to relax and be floppy to develop internal energy. Like, let's say if I go into a yoga studio and I look at people doing yoga, it's not the loosest, most flexible person in the room that glows. It's not about flexibility. It's about the correct type of stretch tension in their body. And it's usually someone who's in that middle area where they're doing a stretch and a posture, and they hit the frequency where the fascia activates life force and the prana glows. That person's got internal energy. And it's usually not even the instructor, ironically. The instructor is overstretched, over floppy, their joints are too loose, and they don't radiate energy. They're not a connected human being, they're a disconnected human being. So this is really important when you're training. Unify the whole body. The fingers and toes got to be stretched and connected to the frequency of life force radiation. This is why we do the building the wall Qigong set from day one, and then pure breathing, and then connecting the body from the beginning. Now, if a person is doing the Qigong path, we don't do that much loosening because they don't actually need that much. They need a little. They want to, get basic tension out of their joints. But if you do power stretching and throwing, you'll loosen much faster than 5 loosening exercises. And the reason why is when you do a power stretch, you release energy around, you open the energy around your joints where we hold most of our tension. And then when you throw, it breaks it apart and loosens it. So a person who does a lot of throwing and power stretching, when they do the first loosening, they're going to be really, really soft. It's going to be a totally different look to a person who just does loosening. Because when you're trying to relax, you're fighting yourself. But when you do a mechanism like a power stretch and a throw, you bring all this unconscious surface up to the stuff and you break it apart through the extremes of throwing, through the extremes of electric and magnetic power stretching. So that type of loosening gives you a potential for more power at greater lengths of stretch. And it opens up the joints and makes them longer, more malleable, and more powerful versus being floppy. So this floppy type of training that you see in Tai Chi it's not conductive to glow and be radiant. It doesn't make your aura glow. If a person has a type of tension in their body where they've got a health problem and they release that through loosening, that will make them feel better, and them feeling better because they've disrupted an imbalance, that will make them glow. But it's because they brought themselves back into alignment. If a person already has a fundamental level of alignment in their body and they don't have those health problems, the 5 loosening will not increase the glow inside their body much at all. It would be a very small amount of difference. It's tuning the stretch and putting load on the stretch that makes people glow. And that's why powerlifters have the largest amount of energetic glow I've seen out of any other sport, because they're putting huge amounts of weight on their fascia and they're stretching the joints open, preloading the body through a stretch, and then controlling the breath and then throwing the weight through. The only thing that can be improved on that is opening up more mental space and tuning that stretch, the feeling of life force, to peak out the power. So it's a small amount of tinkering there. Now, if the powerlifter has a very small mental space, they'll progress slowly. If the powerlifter has a larger mental space, their growth rate will be faster, because that larger mental space allows for faster recovery, faster reorganization. They can develop their system at a much faster rate. One of the misunderstandings about Qigong is the not use of muscles. That's nonsense. You can't move without your muscles being active. But what we're actually trying to do is move through stretching the muscle rather than contracting the muscle. If you lengthen the muscle and put tension on it through the fascia, there's still a contraction, but it's a contraction of the muscle at full stretch. You're lengthening everything. And what that does, it's highly conducive for energy to move internally. Where if the muscle contracts and becomes stiff, which people use as a stereotype, that has nothing to do with almost any sport other than bodybuilding. No one contracts their muscles in any sport. So people are already training fascia. And when you optimize the skill of, let's say, you pick up a dart and throw a dart, the more you refine the fascia and the stabilizers and the balance of the mind, you're training Qigong when you throw a dart. So even though you're not peaking out the stress levels, there's a big mental space. The spirit's got to come into play. The breath control's got to come into play. The muscles have to be controlled, and the fascia has to be tuned, and the stabilizers have to be brought in to throw that dart. So all sports are using internal training in some way or another. They're just not focusing on the sensations of vital energy to tune the fascia to its peak. Okay, so this is a little bit on what makes the aura glow, who's got the strongest glow. And I've met a lot of Qigong teachers, and guess what? They don't normally glow. It's very rare to see a Qigong teacher radiate light and brightness. The ones that do, they cross-train in high-intensity sports. Thank you for your time, and see you on the next video.